I have a box. Now, as most of you know, I don't normally do unboxings or mail calls, anything like that, but this is a little special. It's something of a project that some friends and I are undertaking, so I wanted to give you the full picture from the start. Now, there is an intro video done by my friend Lee of the More Fun Making It and More Fun Fixing It channels. You really should probably watch that before you watch this one, so I'll leave a link for that up in this corner, I believe it is, and in the description section below. So you can go and watch that video and then come back here and watch this one. I'll give you a little time to do that and then we'll go on with this video. So, now that you've watched Lee's video, we can go ahead and take a look at this. What we have here, as you can see on the label, is the roaming ZX Spectrum. Lee's video should have done a very good job of explaining to you exactly what's going on here, but let's go ahead and open her up. And we'll give you a little idea of what's been going on with this fella since its last appearance in Lee's video. Lee did return the Spectrum to Henry, and Henry and his family took a family vacation or holiday across the pond to Florida. Now, would I have picked Florida as the first place for this little guy to go? It's a good choice. There's a lot of interesting stuff there for it to see. It also happens to be one of those places in the United States where they have adopted the phrase, "hold my beer," as a valid lifestyle choice. So, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But Henry took it to some interesting places. He took it out to breakfast at a popular American eatery. Then he took it to visit the rocket ships at NASA. It got the opportunity to meet Mater. And in general, it got to roam around Florida for a while. Once Henry was done with it in Florida, he shipped it to me. Now, I don't live in quite as interesting a place. It's still very much a hold my beer place, but it's small town America. I live in roughly the center of the state of Ohio, not too far from the capital of Columbus, a little town called Marysville. Since there's not a lot in the way of big name scenery in the area, I decided that I would take it to where I grew up, a little place called Plain City. My mother and sister still live there in our family home, and I'll give the little Speccy a tour of my town. One quick thing I'll mention for those of us who may be getting this and didn't grow up in the UK, both the note inside and the label on the front of the package here say, "Not a bear, doesn't like marmalade." I believe that's a reference to Paddington. So if you want to find out more about that, look up Paddington Bear and his adventures, and you might see how that relates. So aside from taking it on a little adventure to my hometown, I decided to build something for this. And it's not exactly a modification. I may also do a mod, we'll see. But I have some parts lying around that I can use to build something useful. What I have here is a ZX Dandanator Mini. This is my one. I use it with my issue 2 Spectrum that you've seen in earlier videos. But I do have the parts, boards, and bits and pieces to build one of these, and that's what I'm going to do. What you see behind me is an American Memorial Day parade. Memorial Day is a federal holiday when we give thanks to the veterans who served our country and pay special tribute to those who've given their lives in service of freedom. So this is the town I grew up in. Not really a city, but it's called Plain City. What you're looking at behind me is the village square. Yeah, I know, it's a triangle. They call it the Flatiron. It was one end of what we used to call the Amish 500, which ran from here to the Eskimo Queen, which is a small ice cream restaurant in town. The Amish 500 was where the young men of the town used to drive up and down trying to pick up girls in their 80s muscle cars. The building you're looking at here, although it's been renovated a few times over the years, used to house the town's video arcade, where I used to spend all of my allowance and most of my time punking quarters into lots of different video games, particularly my favorite, Star Wars. The building I'm standing in front of now used to house the town's pharmacy or apothecary, where you could also go as a kid to buy comic books or to visit the town's only Radio Shack, a small corner of the store where I could still go and buy some nice equipment. And here, although much expanded from what it was when I was a kid, is the town's public library, where I spent many hours playing one of Infocom's text adventures on their two IBM 5150s. And the lot behind me, sadly, is all that remains of the elementary school where I got my first taste of computers in the late 1970s. The building has been torn down in the last few months, and honestly, I had quite a pang of regret when that happened. And last but not least, my childhood home. I know it looks like a lot. It's a 3-story Victorian built in 1908, but before you start thinking that my family was wealthy, well, they scrimped and saved for a long time, borrowed money from family, and mortgaged the heck out of this thing when they bought it. So no, we weren't particularly wealthy. But this is where I grew up. The round area in the top, that was my room when I was a kid. That was where I spent a lot of time playing with computers, learning how to do everything that I can do today. So that's about it for my hometown. Of course, there's more. There's always more. But I'm not going to bore you with all that during this video. So let's get back to the lab and building the ZX Dandanator. The ZX Dandanator isn't a complex build. The bill of materials is small and consists of only through-hole components. The one small exception is the PLCC flash ROM chip. That, however, goes in a through-hole socket. There are other build videos for the Dandanator Mini. One is done by the excellent Mark Fixes Stuff. Another was done by More Fun Making It Lee, whose video kicked this whole thing off. I'll put links to both of those in the description below. So if you want a detailed video build guide for one of these, you'll know where to find them. For my part, I'm just going to get stuck in and put this thing together. I'll only interrupt if I have something important to say. The little window down in the corner will show the 3D printed case being, well, printed, I guess. Well, all right. Before we button the Dandanator up in its case, we should run a test. So, I have the roaming Speccy. Full disclosure, I had not intended to replace the keyboard membrane in this. However, to run a test of the Dandanator, I need to be able to type. So I went ahead and took the new keyboard membrane that was sent along and I installed it in the case. Now, what I didn't do was any cleanup on the old adhesive or any cleanup on the board at all. I just installed the new membrane and replaced the faceplate with a little bit of double-sided sticky tape just to hold it in place. So there's still some work for a future custodian to do. However, the keyboard does now work. So just to verify that our capture is working, I'm going to go ahead and plug the Spectrum in without the Dandanator just to make sure we get an image. I'll be powering this from my bench power supply, always remembering that Spectrums are 9 volts centered negative, and I do have overcurrent protection set to 800 milliamps. So we should be safe. And there we go. We've got a picture and we have a keyboard. All right, so disconnect power. And now we're going to plug in the Dandanator now that it's all built and populated with all of its ICs. Now this is going to be a pretty tight fit to begin with. As it's used over time, things will wear down and the fit will become easier. But for now, it's pretty tight. Okay, the Dandanator is in. Let's see what we get. And we've got the Dandanator screen. So that much is good. We'll go ahead and try to launch a game. We'll go with Attic Attack. Loaded just fine. And we hit reset. That should take us back to the menu. And another game, we'll try, let's try Dizzy. That loaded fine. Back to the menu. And let's get some sound. Now you'll only be able to hear this through my microphone because I don't have audio from the Spectrum hooked up to the capture. Let's go ahead and start Manic Miner, which is 8. All right, back to the menu again. Now we can start the diagnostics, as you can see there. If I hit R, it will start the diagnostics. But also, if I go ahead and unpower this, if I start the machine with the left button pressed down, that will also start the diagnostics. So now you'll notice option 1 is Launch Multiply. The Multiply is an add-on for the add-on. It provides an SD card reader for the Dandanator so that you can put more programs on. It works through the joystick port. It doesn't actually stop the joystick port working. It provides a pass-through joystick port. So you have a joystick port and the SD card reader. They attach to the Dandanator through this joystick port, but they require a mod. So when I built this, I actually built this with the modification already applied. And that modification was to not install C3 at the end here and run a wire from one of the vias for C3 across into one of the pins on the joystick port. Now, if you do this at build time, you can do it on the top of the board like I did. Otherwise, you have to run it across the bottom of the board to reach the pin on the joystick port. But I've gone ahead and done that. So now that we have it tested, I'm going to go ahead and put it in its case. And here's the case that we 3D printed. This design is available on Thingiverse, and I believe it's also on printables. I'll leave a link in the description. One thing I will mention is that the case mounting holes are designed for M3 screws. However, the PCB, at least the one that I had printed, the mounting holes are too small for M3 screws, so I did go ahead and drill them out a little larger. I just used a regular drill, nothing special there. So now I can use M3 screws. And if we've done our job correctly and left enough of a gap between the card edge connector and the PCB, then the top should fit on fine. Otherwise, we may have to make some adjustments. Here's hoping. And the top fits. So now we just tighten down this screw that holds the top and bottom together. And there we have it. One Dandanator Mini fully assembled. It's a pretty good match. So that finishes my contribution to the ZX Spectrum. Oh wait, one more thing I have to do. We only have 3 case screws, which could be another contribution for a future custodian of the little ZX Spectrum. He'd like to have all of his screws. He's also missing feet. The case needs cleaned. These are things that a future custodian will, I'm sure, take care of. Let me carefully remove the keyboard membrane. It's brand new, I don't want to damage it. As you can see here, it's been signed by quite a few folks. Henry and Lee took it to the Cave in the UK, and a lot of folks were there for I believe it was a Patreon event, and a bunch of them went ahead and signed it. And we'd like to have each of the custodians sign it. So I will go ahead and sign it in the corner up here. We'll wait for that to dry. And now my contribution is done. So, what is there yet to be done? Well, as I said, the case could use a good clean, including under the faceplate and cleaning the rubber key mat. It needs screws, a couple of screws. It needs feet. If someone wanted to, they could build or buy a multiply to add on to the Dandanator. Don't have to. It works fine the way it is. It doesn't come with a power supply. Most of us have been using our bench power supplies to work on the machine. The very last thing that's going to be done to it is that Lee from More Fun Making It will be adding a video modification. It's something that's being developed brand new, so it'll be interesting when it happens. I was considering doing a modification that would have involved installing a small Bluetooth receiver to allow the machine to load cassette software from, say, a mobile phone through Bluetooth. However, since I did the keyboard membrane, I decided to leave that potentially for someone else. And there are several other modifications that can be done to this thing. Right now, we believe we have a couple of volunteers to take the Speccy on as its custodian, and we are reaching out to someone in particular that we'd like to see take it for a short time, but we can always use more. So, if you're out there somewhere in the world and you'd like to become the custodian of the little Spectrum, well, reach out to us. Reach out to Lee or myself, and we'll discuss adding you into the chain. You don't have to do a modification. You don't have to do any electronic work. You don't even have to be a YouTube creator. You can be a viewer who would like to take the little Speccy a few places and take selfies with it and send it along. It's out here for an adventure. It wants to see the world. That will do it for this video, and I'm glad you watched. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. If you like what you saw and you're not already a subscriber, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you get notified when I post new videos. I know that isn't very often lately. I'm working on that. And give the video a like if you liked it. That definitely helps convince YouTube to suggest it to a broader audience. Leave me a comment below. I'd love to hear what you thought of the video, all the mistakes I made, and or what maybe you liked about it. That would be great. And I think that will be the end for today. So, everybody stay safe and healthy. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next one.